Can you truly love someone you've never actually met in real life? Should we trust promises made through hundreds of kilometers of distance, relying solely on messages and voice recordings? Today, I want to share with you the unique story of a girl who experienced incredible feelings through online love, but ultimately faced pain, disappointment, and self-doubt. Grab a comfortable seat as we dive into a love story that began as a fairy tale but ended up as one of life's most painful lessons. This is the Real Talk Tales channel, where I share stories of real people. For almost a year of my life, I dedicated myself completely to someone I'd never seen in the flesh. We loved each other from afar, through thousands of texts and calls, and at first, it truly felt like a fairy tale. He knew how to listen. He knew how to understand. I felt like he had found the key to my heart, something no one else had ever done before. It was effortless, comforting, calm. Or at least, that's how I felt in the beginning. But you know, every beautiful fairy tale eventually hits a moment when something just goes wrong. Our first arguments were over minor issues, but every time we faced difficulties, he chose to run away. He threatened to break up, went silent for days, then reappeared full of apologies and grand declarations of love. I forgave, waited, and every time little cracks appeared deep inside me. My once strong trust began crumbling under the weight of his games and unpredictability. One summer day, I got very sick. At such moments, you wait for comfort from your loved one. Just one call, one simple, "How are you feeling?" But after reading my message, he just went out with his friends. That evening, he messaged me as if nothing had happened. When I asked him, "Why did you leave me alone right when I needed you most?" he simply replied, "You should have told me clearly to stay." Again, I forgave him, as again he apologized, promised to change, and cried. But deep inside, it became increasingly painful to trust him. When war broke out in Ukraine, my entire life shook. Anxiety consumed me, worrying about my loved ones, my studies, and housing. My nerves were constantly on edge. I took it out on him, complained, argued, expressed my despair. I was terrified to lose him because of my own emotional breakdowns. He convinced me things would be fine, that he was with me, that he understood and would never leave me. Then the day arrived. We had planned beforehand to spend time together, even though it was online. However, suddenly, I urgently had to go help some relatives. I apologized repeatedly, explaining it wasn't optional. But he wouldn't hear me. For the first time, he asked for a break in our relationship, even though the word break had always been strictly taboo for us. Foolishly, I agreed. Now I realize that was my biggest mistake. After this break, he became totally different. He grew colder and drifted further away, until finally uttering those terrifying words I'd always feared, "It's better if we split up." Panicked, I pleaded with him to stay, promised to change, to become better. But he simply responded, "You should have shown me earlier how much you needed me. Now it's too late." He gave me 1 week to change myself. During those days, I hardly slept or ate, desperately attempting to become perfect for him. But the harder I tried, the more distant he became. My attention and care only annoyed him further, until he eventually said explicitly that he didn't love me anymore, that our relationships were just constant tension. Suddenly, I found myself accused of selfishness, even though my whole life revolved only around him. The most painful revelation was realizing he had someone new, just 3 weeks after our breakup. The man I once believed was the love of my life, the one who called me his future wife, turned out to have forgotten me completely in a matter of days. To this day, I feel ashamed when I reread our old messages. I see how mistrusting, selfish, and argumentative I sometimes was, constantly burdening him with my worries. Could it have been emotional abuse from my side? Was it me who destroyed our love? Now I continuously question myself. Could I have acted differently? Was it ever true love, or just a grand illusion? Viewer comments. First set. I think most people aren't capable of genuinely falling in love online. However, from personal experience, I'd say that when someone is disappointed by reality, warm words from virtual communication can easily captivate the heart. Maybe reflect carefully on what exactly you lacked in real life. Why did this guy never come see you in person before the war started? If he couldn't manage to visit once in an entire year, maybe it reveals his true intentions. Maybe you're blaming yourself unnecessarily, putting all responsibility only on yourself. Additional information. 1. Our relationship was very unusual. We met online, and even though initially I didn't want any relationships at all, he patiently pursued me for 6 months. Eventually, I started believing his stories, that we would meet, start living together, and everything would surely work out. Yet we never actually met, primarily due to his supposed financial limitations at first. And later, after the war started, he left Ukraine altogether. Early in our relationship, we had lots of trust, tenderness, and romance. However, with time, fights and misunderstandings became common, causing cracks in my trust. I felt something was wrong and honestly told him about it. He apologized and regretted his actions, and I forgave him every time. Still, every return needed my pleading for him to stay, after which he suddenly became sweet and loving again. Even now, despite everything, my feelings toward him remain warm. One day, he abruptly left. A few weeks later, he already had another girl. Recently, he admitted he mentioned this new girlfriend deliberately to make me let go. Now I see clearly. I've grown dependent on him. I never needed these relationships in the first place. I was happy and fulfilled on my own. But he changed everything. He began controlling every step I took. Surprisingly, I liked reporting to him, feeling special and needed. I now understand that his sweet promises got me addicted, and his sudden coldness only brings me continuous pain. Comments, second set. This was your choice, and you ended up psychologically dependent on this person. Have you considered how you'll break free from it? You're letting yourself be manipulated and then forgiving the abuser. You're the perfect victim for a manipulator. If you don't break this pattern, you'll soon find yourself under the control of another manipulator. The cycle won't end until you switch your mindset from dependence to self-respect and self-sufficiency. Honestly admitting your situation is the first step toward improving it. Update 1. Recently, I texted him again. He admitted he brought up having a new girl as a lie, designed explicitly for me to let him go. That hurt deeply. Although conversation restarted, it still feels unnatural. He just responds coldly, indifferently, no longer interested in my life. He only speaks of other girls and alcohol. I begged him not to lose himself, but received only indifference and rude words in return. I can't stop texting him, yet every message leads me deeper into pain. My own opinion. My perspective is clear. Virtual relationships without personal meetings can never be complete or truly real. When people chat online, they can always carefully consider their words and create an idealized version of themselves. Distance makes emotional manipulation much easier. The most questionable thing here is the absence of a physical meeting. If the guy truly couldn't visit due to finances or other obstacles, why didn't she attempt a real meeting herself? If two people deeply care about each other, they'll find a way to meet in person. It appears she might have willingly believed in an unrealistic fantasy, idealizing him and later painfully confronting reality. Such romantic illusions become dangerous, creating emotional trauma and decreasing self-respect. To heal, she must address her psychological dependence, analyze why she easily falls into virtual love, and establish boundaries and expectations for herself and her partners. Thank you for watching this incredible story with us. If you found it interesting or valuable, please like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming stories.